So we're doing muscles again, and guys, we're going to go over the motor unit and more of what potassium, sodium pump, and all this kind of stuff. It gets really confusing because they start throwing in neurological terms along with muscular terms, and it gets really confusing. But here's kind of the thing we want to start to get on this thing. So remember, we had the sarcomere, which was the functional unit of muscle, and that was a myofibril, okay, or the muscle cell, and then those are connected to make fasciculi. Fasciculitis is like a twitching of the muscle, right? And the fascicles, right? That's what those do. And then we have the next level up. Those are wrapped in a thing called a paramecium, and then above that is the epimecium, and then the fascia. And the fascia is that big old coating, right? You've seen that if you've cut meat, or actually, mess with raw chicken. You can peel the covering off the muscle, and that's the fascia. That's the myofascia is what it's called. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the motor unit. And the motor unit is a pretty unique little structure because it's the meeting place between the nervous system and the muscular system. Now here's what happens. So way up in here, we're going to do this little thing like this. This little guy like this, and that's called the terminal branch. Okay, and then between, after that, we have this thing called like this. It's called the sarcolemma. Okay, it's a covering of the muscle, and in here, the whole thing is called the motor unit. MU. Well, you can't see it, but anyway. Oh, you can. There you go. MU. And this area in here is called the motor end plate. Really, is what it's called. So it ends at the motor, ends at the muscle, and these two, the nerve and the muscle, never touch. There's a tiny little layer in between them of gel, basically, is a plasma, is fluid, whatever. That's where the neurotransmitters from here, the acetylcholine, which is ACH, we call it ACH, okay, acetyl, acetylcholine, which is the main neurotransmitter for the muscular system. That's what goes between here and starts this whole cascade of events. Now, in the part, there's a couple things that are happening. Now, in the muscle itself, in the nerve, there's what's called the sodium-potassium pump. Let's go over that. Okay, so here's what happens inside the nerve. In order to get that nerve conduction down, you have the outside of the, let's see, I'll put it right here. The outside of the muscle and the inside, or the outside of the nerve and the inside of the nerve. So this is outside, O-U-T, and this is in. Okay, and normally we have sodium. And sodium, remember, is Na+, and potassium. Okay, and we're going to go times 3. Okay, there's 3 of those guys out there, and there's potassium, times 2. Okay, we have 2 potassiums on the inside, we have 3 sodiums on the outside, and those guys are moving back and forth. And it's this movement that causes electric current. Actually, this is an electrical chemical reaction. Whenever you move these two things together, that's where we get electron movement, and that's where you get electricity, basically. So your nerves are electricity, and this is why electricity, if you grab onto a wire, it'll tighten up the muscles, or we use muscle stim. We can put the pads on, a muscle, and it'll contract the muscle, which I'll probably show you at some point. I think I have one around here. I'll probably try and get that going one of these days soon. So there's more sodium on the outside than on the inside, and there's more potassium on the inside than there is on the outside, basically. Okay, and the pump is constantly moving these guys around. Okay, depending on what's going on. If we get the acetylcholine at one end, it starts the process of moving sodium in and then potassium out, and then it keeps trying to maintain its balance. And this is the balance: sodium on the outside, potassium on the inside. Okay, when it changes, that's you get a potential, and that sends that electrons down the nerve towards the muscle. Okay, relatively, it's negative on the inside. So you have 3 positives and 2 positives. Relatively, it's more negative on the inside of the muscle than it is on the outside. More positive on the outside, relatively. Okay, that's step 1. But wait. Okay, this is where it gets crazy. So inside your muscle, I'm going to erase this real quick. Inside the muscle, you have a thing called the T-tubules and the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Remember, endoplasmic reticulum? There's endo inside the plasma, which is the inside of the cell, and there's a reticulum. Reticulum is like a reticulated python. Remember, those are like squiggly, and they're not coiled. They're like this. They're like whatever. They're like this. That's reticulated or folded. So you have a sarcoplasmic. Sarco means muscle. Sarcoplasmic reticulum. So there's these things in there, and that goes all around the muscle fibers. Okay, that's part of the muscle fiber system. And then there's these things called the T-tubules, which go inside. And inside the T-tubules is inside the sarcoplasmic reticulum is calcium. Okay, and calcium gets into the T-tubules, and that causes a whole thing with the myosin and actin. So the actin attaches to some calcium, and it turns, and then the myosin can reach up and grab it. And so here's kind of what that is. Remember, we had over here, we have Z line and Z line, and we have actin. Okay, actin, and here, and we have in the middle. We're going to do it in orange because that's cooler. We have myosin. Myosin's a big fat guy in the middle. Okay, M for middle. Now, as calcium, C++, attaches to here, this thing turns and has these little, like, basically places for this guy to grab on. Okay, and it grabs on like this, and it pulls like this, pulls in. So the myosin has these little fingers in here, and they pull. Let's go like this. They pull it in, and they pull these two Z lines close together, and that's how muscle contraction starts. Now, once it gets to the end, you have like ATP being involved in this whole thing. Remember ATP? This is where it gets confusing, guys. ATP. Well, the whole thing's confusing, actually. ATP is adenosine triphosphate, and that's the main fuel that your body makes with glucose. Remember the mitochondria, right? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That takes glucose plus oxygen and makes ATP. Makes a whole bunch of ATP, like 32 to 36, whatever it was. That's in the Krebs cycle, the citric acid cycle, and all that kind of stuff. Remember that stuff? Way back machine? Well, there's lots of mitochondria in muscle. Tons of it. Lots and lots and lots. And that's what gives you the energy to move those things around so that you can have the calcium bind, and then that opens up the lock, which allows the myosin to grab on and pull it to the center. Okay, there we go. So with that in mind, I want you to remember a few things. Sarcomere is the functional unit of muscle. It's relatively negative on the inside, which there's 2 potassiums on the inside and 3 sodiums on the outside, normally at rest. When you want to make it go, you switch them around. Okay, and that causes a change in the electrons, and the electricity charge is made, and it travels down that whole nerve. Now, when it gets down to the nerve, it releases acetylcholine, the main neurotransmitter of muscle, and that neurotransmitter goes into the sarcolemma, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and that causes calcium to move. Okay, and that goes into the sarcomere, right? And that's what causes this whole cascade effect of tightening and loosening and contraction of the muscles. Remember, muscles can pull, but they cannot push. Got it? Okay, so that's part 2 of muscle. That's kind of like, at least get all that information inside your head. Go look up some other places on there. I'm sure there's some cool animations that'll show you how to do it. And then the question I want you to answer in the comments down below is, let's see, remember, there's something that I said about the nerve and the muscle, that there's something that they never do. And what is that? And I want you to write it out. Is the nerve and the muscle never blink. Okay, and write that in the comments, and that's how we're going to get our stuff, because it's too hard when you guys all email me this stuff. It just goes crazy. So put it down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to get the rest of the things. And this is number 2, and so go watch the first one if you missed it, and then you watch the next one. The next one's going to be on twitch, tone, and spasm. We're going to talk about the 3 flavors of muscle. Okay, 3 types. Gotta write it down here. 3 types of muscles, and there we go. So that should be it. After that, we're going to do things like movement and muscle terms, which is going to be with the origin, insertion, and tendon versus ligaments, and all the aponeuroses and all of the different things. And we're going to go through each one of those, and I'm going to show you how they work. Okay? So there we go. That's it. Go do your homework. Okay?